Welcome to Recognizing and Sustaining Volunteers, meaningful ways to say thank you, from the subtle nods to the banging of pots and pans. So, we recruit volunteers, we train them, we give them their assignments. Then the next thing we need to keep our eye on is staying engaged with them and acknowledging their efforts as they go along working in our programs. And this course covers some ways to do that. We'll give you a lot of information, but we'll also give you an opportunity to stop and reflect on how you'll apply it in your program and to develop your own plans. We really hope that you'll take it in and then be intentional with what you take from it and apply. So let me start with the introduction of your presenters. Collectively, we have almost 100 years of experience among us. Yay! And that has been primarily working with California Library Literacy Services programs. And so we'll direct this course to that, but the principles are the same no matter what type of volunteer program you're working with. You can take from it and apply in your own program. So we're sharing from what we've learned in our experience, a lot of what we've learned from the field and talking with our colleagues and just increasing our toolkits in the area, and also what we're learning as we continue to study and learn and find out how we can improve how we do this. So my name is Kathy Retta. I have about 40 years working with the California Library Literacy Services, CLLS. I began as a volunteer tutor in 1984. The next year was the program coordinator, and I've been doing that. I did that at 3 different library systems, and now I'm a consultant and still enjoy it, still just love volunteers. So I'm one of your presenters. Next.
Hi, you all. I'm Carrie. I've been fortunate to work in support of literacy services in the library since the early 90s, when I started out as a volunteer in my local library.
And I'm Heather Tovey. I've been overseeing, I'm the library literacy manager for almost 9 years now, but prior to that, I also spent, and I work closely with volunteers, but prior to that, I worked in a very busy children's room at a library and had lots of encounters and oversaw volunteers there. So happy to be here with you.
In terms of a course overview, in these next few minutes, we're going to be providing an introduction to the topic of volunteer recognition. And in part 2, we'll look at understanding volunteer motivations. We often talk about volunteer motivations related to recruiting volunteers, but there's also much to be learned from volunteer motivations related how to appreciate and thank your volunteers. And then in part 3, we'll look at some actual ideas for volunteer recognition, building on those various motivations. And in part 4, we'll take a look at some tools you can use to assess your program, your strengths related to volunteer recognition, and some areas that could use some focus. And we're thinking that if you're taking this course, it's likely you work with volunteers. And as you know, volunteer management is a huge topic and covers a wide variety of responsibilities and principles, much broader than we can address here. So we're going to really hone in on volunteer recognition, which is such an important piece of volunteer management. But research suggests that in the midst of all the outreach, training, onboarding that goes on with our volunteer management roles, that volunteer recognition often gets slotted to the bottom. So if that's true for you, know that you're not alone. And as you work through this course, keep in mind that there's lots that every program can be doing to improve volunteer recognition. But of course, the decisions about how to handle volunteer recognition and activities is ultimately based on your program, your library, and your community. You're the person in the know. We're happy to be facilitating this discussion and urge you to be aware of your resources and your priorities. And key is really being intentional about what you choose to include in your volunteer recognition program.
So we have a few ideas or suggestions on how you might use this course. Be creative. You have some options. You can go through all 4 parts. There's 4 parts of it in one sitting, or maybe you can divide it up and take it at different times. You can do it alone, but even more wonderful would be sharing it with a team. So you could recruit some of your colleagues to go through it with you at the same time and make it a team effort. It'll be fun, and you'll always learn more and gain more perspective when you have those conversations with those around you. So make some time to download the handouts, which we've provided, and those include the activities as you go along. So are you ready to dig in? And speaking of motivation, we're going to dig into part 2 now.